All right, as we do each and every week, we pick every NFL game against the spread with Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco. I'm Chris Hassel. We've got the New England Patriots on CBS at the Houston Texans. Now, the Patriots a chance to get back to 500 here going into the week. Sportsline giving the Patriots a 13% chance to make the playoffs. Pete, you give them any kind of a chance to make a run here?
Well, they have a chance to make the playoffs. Remember, there's an extra team, and there might be two extra teams.
They might need that second extra team to get in. There's a ton of 6-3 teams right now.
Hey, give Bill Belichick credit for what he did the other day. I mean, that team is decimated, and they were able to run the football. They dominated the line of scrimmage. The offensive line's playing great football. And defensively, they still have some issues, but I thought they stepped up and made some plays. So kudos to Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. He's showing it. And I said before the season, if this team got in the playoffs, it might be his best coaching job ever. And the Texans are a disaster. They're terrible on defense. They don't rush the passer. Their secondary isn't good. Deshaun Watson presses. They're not making big plays when you need them. It's not a good football team right now. And I think this is an opportunity for a Patriots team. Remember, they've owned them. They've owned the Texans in their short time in the league. And maybe the Texans will bring out those Letterman jackets from a few years ago. try and liven up the rivalry again. That didn't work so well that day. It's not going to work well here. I think the Patriots go in there and win the game outright.
I'm not so sure that the Patriots don't win this game. I just think it's going to be really, really close. Look, Bill O'Brien's not there anymore. No one's bringing out the Letterman jackets. Yes, the Texans have only beat the Jacksonville Jaguars twice this year. But the bottom line is, at least Houston can throw the football better than the New England Patriots can. I mean, if there wasn't the inclement weather in Foxborough versus the Baltimore Ravens, do we really know if they would have beat the Ravens? I mean, that game could have turned out entirely different. So I think this one's going to be close. Neither of these two teams have postseason aspirations, in my opinion. I don't think New England's going to get there. I think they're too far behind Buffalo. They're going to be too far behind Miami. And I also don't think that COVID's going to impact this schedule this year to where we're going to have 8 teams from each conference. And we also haven't seen the NFLPA even agree to that yet. So let's just go into the assumption that there's only going to be 7 teams on each side. If that's the case, I don't think they get in. I do think they'll continue to win some games. This might be one of them, but I do think it'll be close. And I think Houston, if they clean up some things defensively, offensively, provide a little bit of balance, there's no reason why they shouldn't be potentially in this football game, because New England doesn't threaten you with much outside of being able to run the football. So I'll go ahead and take the 2 points, even though I think this really could be a 1-point victory or very, very close between these two.
Yeah, I'm laying the 2 points, by the way. That's my pick. I said I would take the Patriots to win, and I will lay the points.
Do you think that they're going to blow out the Houston Texans?
No, they'll win by a touchdown.
And Joe Burrow will win how many Super Bowls over the
next 10 years? Not one, maybe 2.
Maybe 2. Okay.
He said 2.
No,
he said 2 and
10. Maybe.
He said hashtag 2 and 10. Hashtag 2 and 10.
You're making that up. Pull the tape.
That's on CBS.
That's on camera.
1 Eastern time. Patriots trying to win their 3rd straight and get back to 500 and have a chance to make the postseason. Also on CBS, the Steelers likely going to stay perfect. They are at the Jaguars. Spread maybe not as big as some thought it would be. The Jaguars have been in some games, and Luton hasn't been bad. It's a 10-point spread in Jacksonville. Brady?
I like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Does this need that much more analysis? Or, I mean, do you guys want to go right back to Pete? I know I took too much time up on the other picks, so can I just say, look, Pittsburgh's got the better team, better defense, better playmakers, better everything. I do think James Robinson will run the football a little bit in this one, but I like Pittsburgh, and I'll lay the 10 points. I don't think this needs a ton of analysis.
I'm with him. I'll lay the 10 points too. But, and this is a big but, the history of this series has been pretty even. I mean, despite the fact that Steelers have sometimes had the better teams, these teams have had good battles back and forth. And remember, the Jaguars were the only team that went to Pittsburgh and won twice in the same season. Having said all that, it's an easy win for the Steelers. I think the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago will be good for the Steelers. It gets them refocused when they go out on the road. Remember, they kind of lollygagged through that entire game and almost lost it. This won't be one of those games. Jacksonville's getting better. Young players are getting better, but they're not in this class. I think that they can't handle Pittsburgh. It's a blowout.
Good quarterbacks win. Great quarterbacks cover. Jake Luton undefeated in his career, 2-0 as a starter. Brady, Mike Tomlin said that they've got to get more out of their rushing game. I mean, it's kind of nitpicky when you're 9-0, but when you project things forward, Do they need a lot more out of the running game to be a real contender to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, of course. Look, if this ends up being the #1 overall seed in the AFC playoff picture, they're going to have home field advantage throughout. And I'm not sure last time you checked, Chris. I think you've got too accustomed to being in this South Florida weather. But up in Pittsburgh, it gets cold. There's rain, there's snow, there's wind. There's all those sorts of things that are probably going to impact the way you want to call a game. So you better be able to control games with that defense and with being able to run the football if the weather becomes too difficult to throw into. So they need to get that going. I think this is a game where they could get that going. But bottom line, and I've said this for a couple weeks now, the offensive line has flown under the radar in regards to getting maybe a portion of that blame for some of the reasons why this offense hasn't been clicking on all cylinders. They haven't played great this year, whether it's in pass protection or in run blocking, but this is a game where they could get back on track.
They're going to get back on track, but they do have to run the ball. And we thought there'd be a bigger year for James Conner. It hasn't happened that way. They have to get that run game established. They had some injuries on the offensive line. They're healthier now. I think that will factor in. And Jacksonville has trouble stopping the run. They've had all kinds of problems with the run game in the last 2 years. Devon Hamilton's going to be a big-time player in the middle of that defense, but that's one guy. They're going to get run on in this game.
Steelers have a 1-game lead over the Chiefs for that bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs, even though the Chiefs are still the Super Bowl favorites at William Hill. Sportsline giving the Steelers a 19.5% chance to win it all. The Chiefs 17.5% chance. Not sure the percentage chances on whether or not we're going to see the starting quarterbacks in our next game. The Lions and the Panthers. Probably no Christian McCaffrey in this game. Kind of up in the air on Teddy Bridgewater and Matthew Stafford, though Stafford usually plays through injury. Brady, what do you think?
No, I think we're probably going to see Matthew Stafford, even though he's dealing with that. I believe it's either a torn or a sprained ligament in his thumb. Clearly, that's going to impact his ability to throw effectively, but they should be getting back Kenny Golladay. He makes a world of difference for this team and for their passing attack. So I think that's obviously a positive sign. On the flip side, though, you mentioned Teddy Bridgewater's knee sprain. I believe it was an MCL sprain. It'd be a little bit too soon for me to be able to come back. And, yeah, Christian McCaffrey's already ruled out for this week. He's looked at to be able to come back in Week 12. So this Carolina Panthers offense could be very limited. P.J. Walker would take over for Teddy Bridgewater. And if you'll recall, he did play under Matt Rule back during his days at Temple. And he did, in one of the spring leagues, kind of light the world on fire there for a period of time. So he is athletic. He can't hurt you with his legs. However, all that being said, I like the Lions in this one. I know their defense hasn't been great this year, and clearly that's the side of the football that needs to improve. But I also think Matt Stafford's going to play. I think with Golladay back, they'll take advantage of that young secondary for the Panthers, even though they've exceeded my expectations. So I'll go ahead and take the 1.5. You're going to give it to me.
I'm on the other side. I'm going to take the Panthers. I just think that, they've been in a little bit of a, downfall right now. They can't stop it. They've lost 5 straight games. And some of those games they played well. They played well at Kansas City and had a chance in that game. I think Teddy Bridgewater will play. Matt Stafford will play. Whoever can handle their injury better is probably the one who's going to win the game. Again, gripping the football is a concern of mine, and Brady was a quarterback. He knows better than anybody that you have to be able to grip it. If your thumb's an issue, that could be a problem. I think this is a high-scoring game. I think both teams will score points because I don't think either defense is that good. So I think it's a high-scoring game, but I'll take Carolina minus the point.
We have some really good matchups this week. That means we're going to get some really, not so good matchups. That might be one of them. Our next one, Bengals and Washington. A pair of 2-win teams here. The line is -1 for Washington. Really close to a pick 'em here, Brady. The over-under is 46 and a hook.
Well, first off, let me just say this. Washington's not out of the NFC East race.
Nobody is.
Well, no one is, but you also look at their schedule the rest of the way. And, look, I think with Alex Smith, they play a winning brand of football. He's not going to turn the football over, even though he showed the propensity to a couple weeks ago. They were down. He came in and spotted. You go back to last week, he was spreading it all around the field. So he gives them a chance to win in this one. And I also think, look, it's a bad matchup. When you look at that Bengals offensive line have to take on this front for the Washington football team, I like Washington. I think they'll be able to get after Joe Burrow. They'll be able to pester him, put pressure on him, and the Washington football team is going to get this win. So I'll go ahead and I'll lay the 1 point. It's basically a pick 'em in this case, but I just believe right now more in the mismatch of that defensive front versus the offensive line for Cincinnati and the experience of Alex Smith being able to guide the Washington football team to a win.
Let me see. On the rundown, it says Brady likes the Bengals.
Is that a flip-flop, Jack? Or
Flip-flop? What is that? Brady likes the Bengals. He gives me all kinds of grief for. He thinks
if we're really going to dive into the rundown, we should maybe call out Jack, too, our producer, for putting the Clippers in for one of the teams in the in too. So full disclosure here, we make some mistakes in the rundown.
Did you flip-flop?
Did I flip-flop?
Yeah.
No, I literally picked the game, and at one point maybe I typed in Cincinnati instead of Washington, but Washington's the pick.
He thinks that they're going to just club Cincinnati up front with that defensive line.
His reasoning is correct. I agree with him 100%. I think that defensive line is going to get after him, get after Burrow. His offensive line has had trouble protecting him. He's a tough kid. He's taken way too many shots this year, and that's going to be the difference in this game. I think that defensive pass rush will force some turnovers and turn the ball over and turn it into short fields. I'll take Washington.
So 2-10 isn't happening this year, is what you're saying, Pete?
No.
Okay.
I never said it would happen this year.
Still have 9 years to go.
There's 9 years.
There's
2-9.
There's an entire decade to go. I just want to make it through that.
Well, it's not an entire decade. You only got 9 years after this year.
Only 9 after this one. Haven't been mathematically eliminated from the postseason. I don't think. I'll have to check on that and get back to it. Let's recap the picks.
They've been eliminated, Chris.
Brady likes the Clippers -1 to beat the Bengals on Sunday
The draft
afternoon.
is done. Let's give Jack some slack, okay?
Poor Jack. He didn't do anything. We're just calling him out. Doesn't have a mic. Can't get back to us. Both like Washington. Both like the Steelers at -10. That line seems a little low. It smells a little fishy to me.
Get the hook out. Bait in the hook.
A little fishy. All right. All right, we're moving to Sunday afternoon games as we pick them against the spread with Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco. I am Chris Hassel. 4:25 Eastern Time, a really good matchup here between the Packers and the Colts. Both teams lead their divisions. The Colts are in a tie with the Titans. The Packers sitting there at 7-2 with hopes of maybe getting home field advantage in the NFC. You know, Brady, the Colts are favored in this game, -2.5. They're the only team in the league to be favored in every game this season.
Yeah, this one was fishy to me because I really thought coming into it the Packers would be the favored team. But because of that, I'm actually laying the points with the Colts. Look, I think they've actually showed some balance, even though they don't have Marlon Mack. Jonathan Taylor in that rushing attack should be able to take advantage of the Green Bay Packers defense, which has struggled to stop the run. Phillip Rivers seems to be like he's in a bit more of a rhythm than you could say with the first 6 games of the season or so. And he likes to get the ball out of his hand quick, so that should negate that pass rush for the Packers. Really, the flip side is, though, that Colts defense taking on the Green Bay Packers, it will be a big challenge for them. Probably one of the better defenses that they've faced. So, look, it looked fishy to me. I normally don't like picking against Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, but something's up here, Pete. I don't know what it is, but because of that, I'm going to go ahead and lay the 2.5 points.
You're giving me Aaron Rodgers and points. I mean, it's not a lot of points, but they're points.
You like the Colts, too.
I do like the Colts, but I'm taking Aaron Rodgers on the road. And the Colts defense has been phenomenal. They've been really good. But let's go back to week 1. They lost to Jacksonville. They lost to Gardner Minshew. They haven't exactly beaten up
the only team to lose to Jacksonville.
And they haven't beaten a Murderer's Row team, so a schedule. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for Rodgers to throw it around. Now, last week, the Packers weren't very good against Jacksonville. They were sleepwalking through that thing before they realized they were in a game, but they found a way to win it. This week, they're going to be much more focused. I think they're going to hit some shots down the field. They get Allen Lazard back. This will be the first time they've had all those receivers together in a long time. And I think that Devontae Adams, Valdez-Scantling, and Lazard will have a big day. Rodgers, plus points, that's stealing.
The Packers are 10-0 against the spread their last 10 games after not covering the week before. They did not cover against the Jaguars, though they did win. So you guys are differing on this. Brady, you're just going that way because you think the line is fishy? Is that most of your
Yeah, something's up here. Like, I'm with Pete. I really don't understand it. I don't think that the Colts should be, giving 2.5 points. I understand the game is Indianapolis, but there's no home field advantage. Maybe a point here. This game really, in my mind, should be closer to a pick'em. But because of that, again, I'm just kind of going with the trend. And I think I'm betting on the defense, too, being able to get after Aaron Rodgers, slow down some of their production here, and also be able to run the football versus this defense that has shown a weakness in not being able to stop the run with all the nickel and dime personnel that Mike Pettin likes to put out there on the field.
I agree with a lot of those points. I just think when ultimately it comes down to Rodgers against Rivers, and Rodgers has played much better than Phillip Rivers, And I think that carries over here. I just don't think that they've been challenged that much on that side of the ball.
You got hooked. The folks in Vegas, they got you hooked.
I'm biting.
Falling for it.
A big fish he took a big chunk out of it.
It's going to be hard for a lot of people not to take the Packers and the points in that game. No question about it. Moving on, 4:05 Eastern Time, a CBS game. The Dolphins 6-3 at the Broncos. The Dolphins 3.5-point favorites, Brady. And if they win, they will be tied atop the AFC East with the Bills.
What a story. What a season. I mean, who would have thought a year ago, especially the way the first 3 games looked for the Miami Dolphins under their new head coach back then, Brian Flores. But he's really built this team up. They truly play the best complementary football of anyone in the NFL right now when you incorporate their special teams, the return ability of someone like Jakeem Grant, their ability to block punts, their defense is even scoring points too. They're one of the better scoring defenses. And offensively, since Tua Tagovailoa has taken over, he's been able to spread around the football and operate within the confines of Chan Gailey's system. He's not turning the football over. He's not putting him in a bad spot. All of those, the mobility, the ability to create, we're seeing all of those things still demonstrate themselves in the NFL. And probably, again, the unsung heroes of this entire group, the offensive line. They've continued to play well this season, and it doesn't matter whether it was Myles Gaskin, Matt Breida, or now Savon Ahmed has been the featured back. They still find production in the running game. So I like the Dolphins in this one. I'll lay the 3.5 points. Drew Lock's banged up. It's coming off probably his worst game of his career starting. It's just a banged-up Denver Broncos team. They'll make it ugly. It'll be a low-scoring game, but I still like Miami to win.
I agree. I think, and Brady said it, this is one of the best stories. Remember last year when I said I would love to be the Dolphins general manager? And this is the reason why. They have a ton of picks. They have young players. And Brian Flores is the coach of the year in the NFL right now. What he's done with this team, they play hard. And Brady mentioned it. They score on defense. They're good on special teams. They still haven't been great on offense yet with Tua, but that might come down the road. I think they go in there. Denver is banged up. Drew Lock might not play in this game. If he doesn't, I don't think they have a real chance to win it. So I'll take Miami minus the points.
Sportsline giving them a 72% chance to make the postseason. Now, if they get in, I mean, are they going to scare people, in your opinion, Pete?
Well, I mean, if they won the division, they'd get a home playoff game. It'll probably come down to the last week of the season they play at Buffalo. That will probably decide the division. By the way, little early lean. Be careful next week against the Jets. That's always a rivalry. Be careful next week against.
You're talking about Dolphins, Jets?
Yep.
Okay.
Little early lean.
Jets fans are hoping that's not going to be the case.
Of course.
They've got the leg up for number one and potentially Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. That's our next game, CBS 4:05 Eastern. 0-9 Jets at the 2-7 Chargers. And Pete, the Chargers are giving 8.5. This seems like the game where they take the lead early and keep it throughout. What do you say?
I agree, but they're the Chargers.
Yeah?
They might be up by 20 in the fourth quarter and find a way to give that away. I doubt it because
Joe Jets can't score 3 touchdowns.
Joe Flacco's starting a quarterback, but they have the receivers together now, and they looked pretty good against New England a couple weeks ago, moving the football. Joe Flacco did some good things, but I think this is a spot for Justin Herbert to make some plays down the field against a bad defense and get back on track. The Chargers have found new and creative ways to lose games every single week. Last week, they just got beat. Last week, the Dolphins beat them. He was not very good last week, Justin Herbert. I think he bounces back against a bad Jets team, and they win the game. By the way, Melvin Ingram, same number of sacks Jadeveon Clowney has this year.
0?
None.
Wow. Ready?
He struggled a bit. Well, you need to update, by the way, Justin Herbert's profile.
Yeah.
Photo.
He cut his hair.
He's cut his hair. First time since, I believe, 2018. I heard he had his strength coach, John Lott, cut his hair. That is probably one of the more risky things he's ever done off or on the field in his entire football career, including Oregon. He's typically a good decision maker. I'm not sure I advise having your strength coach cut your hair, and I'm a huge meathead. All that being said, look, this is a game where I feel like the LA Chargers will be able to hold on to this one. Justin Herbert's played phenomenal this year for a rookie. There's no other way about it. Both throwing the football and at times, too, being able to utilize his legs. They'll be able to dominate the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, and I think put up enough points where they'll keep the Jets at bay. So I'll lay the 8.5 points. I've said this all year long, though. And whether it's next week versus the Dolphins or potentially even this week, this Jets team will be competitive. I still think they'll win a game, and they could potentially even cover this one. It's not like the guys in the locker room, the coaching staff, anyone's giving up right now.
Well, I can tell you this, though, Chris. In Jacksonville, they say Jets, Jets, Jets every single week. Every single week.
If the Jags get number one, they take in Lawrence, or Fields?
They take Lawrence.
Okay.
Everybody will take Lawrence.
I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
I've heard some other people say some different things in the last several weeks.
No, Brady will know. No way.
Brady, you agree?
Of course. Okay. Whoever's saying that, stop listening to them. If they're a part of our network, then
it was probably Brinson. I don't know who it was.
Well, there you go.
He usually has one too many toughies, and he starts saying some ridiculous things.
We blame everything on Brinson. I don't know if he said it or not. 4:25 Eastern Time. Cowboys at Vikings, and Minnesota's favored by 7.5. Brady. They feel like they can make a run at the postseason now by getting this 4th consecutive win.
I feel like I might be falling for a trap here. I like the Vikings in this point. They've obviously been playing better football. Dalvin Cook's been sensational. Let's give credit where credit's due, okay? Kirk Cousins played well in prime time on Monday Night Football, got his first win ever on Monday Night Football. And I think it's in part because of that rushing attack with Cook. Teams really focusing on him, but also the emergence of Justin Jefferson. He's really become a nice second option to Adam Thielen. Kyle Rudolph played a part as well. And the defense is slowly starting to improve, although I don't know if we should base it based on the Chicago Bears offense because of how bad they were. That being said, Andy Dalton's back for the Cowboys. And I do wonder what kind of boost he could bring. So this is a spot where I'm going to lay the points. Pete, I don't feel good about this at all. I feel like the Dallas Cowboys may surprise us. Maybe Dalton surprises us here.
Yeah, and I think this number is probably a little too high, but that's the reason I'm laying it. It looks fishy on the other side, particularly with Dalton back. But give Mike Zimmer credit. People were burying him about a month ago.
Well, he buried his special teams coach when Patterson ran the touchdown back for the Bears.
That's Mike Zimmer.
6 feet under.
He's done a lot worse than that. But Mike Zimmer's been a good coach in this league for a long time. And I was wondering if he could turn this team around, and he has. Have you seen their schedule? The next, you talk about this game, then they get Carolina and Jacksonville. They are winnable games. They're going to be smack dab in the middle of the playoff race. And that defense is playing much better. Remember, they had all the injuries and stuff going on in the secondary. The young corners are playing well. They don't have their pass rushers. Danielle Hunter's not there. They traded away Ngakoue. Now you're getting young guys like Wanham rushing the passer. Kudos to Mike Zimmer. They will win this game and cover the number. But I'm with you, Brady. That's a big number, and it looks a little fishy.
But the Cowboys 1-8 against the spread this season. That's the worst number in the NFL. Don't have as many of us fooled as they did at the start of the season. We know what kind of a team they are now without Dak Prescott. Recapping the picks, and there's a lot of agreement between Pete Prisco
my paper.
and Brady Quinn.
Oh,
yes, who's up on these picks, by the way?
I've been picking first, by the way. So
Pete says he's got a lead on you. So
Pete always says that.
only differing on the Packers and the Colts.
And he didn't really like
the
Colts.
only reason there is Brady doesn't want to get hooked by Vegas. He thinks that line is fishy, so he's going to trust the people in Vegas and take the Colts, thinking that there might be something going on there. All right, we got some great primetime games this week. It begins on Thursday. It goes all the way through Sunday and Monday. It's rare when we get 3 really good ones. Usually there's at least one dud in there somewhere.
The past week hasn't been that
God. We got the Chiefs 8-1 at the Raiders 6-3. And Brady, the Chiefs, they haven't shied away from saying they were a little bit upset. Not only losing at home to the Raiders, but the way the Raiders kind of drove the bus around the stadium after the game and celebrated that victory.
In defense of the Las Vegas Raiders and John Gruden, okay, they had a bus driver who may have, upset a few people, so they wanted to make sure they got their money's worth, and they drove around the stadium there in Arrowhead a couple of times. So be it. Now, will that be some bulletin board material for this game? Of course it will. So that's why I love the Chiefs in this spot. For starters, as good as Derek Carr's played, the passing game, the way the offensive line has been able to run block for Josh Jacobs, and they've been productive, their defense still really hasn't figured some things out. We kind of look back to a couple instances. For example, they're winning Cleveland. It was terrible weather out there. So, of course, they looked like they were better statistically, but neither team could really throw the football that game. So I still don't think they've improved the way they need to on defense. I think this is a great spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they take advantage of this Raiders defense, put up a bunch of points, and that Chiefs defense, which is definitely the better of the two in this matchup, is able to get a turnover or two from Derek Carr and the Raiders and be able to easily win this one.
Speaking of defense, there is a report from NFL Network that basically the Raiders' entire starting defense is going to the COVID-19 list because of high-risk close contacts, but they would all be eligible to play in the game if they continue to test negatively.
Well, the Chiefs have guys in the COVID protocols too, so keep an eye on this one. It'll be interesting. If they do get everybody back and everybody plays, I like the Raiders in this game, and Brady talked
Really
about
beat them twice in a season?
not to win the game,
Okay,
with the points, but Brady talked about the bus ride. If you're playing a division rival who beat you earlier in the year on the road in their new stadium for the first time, and you need some stupid bus ride to get you motivated, there's something wrong with you.
You're missing the point, Pete.
No, I'm
You're
not.
missing the point.
No,
Here's
I'm
the
not.
point, is if you're up, what you do in that instance is instead of maybe you're making that conservative play call to run out the clock up 3, up 4, guess what you do if you're Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs? You go ahead and you run that football into the end zone, you put in the dagger, and you go ahead and cover, and you prove to everyone else a little bit something extra on there. That's what you're missing out. It's not about motivation. It's not about anything other than they're going to make sure they let them know that you come into Kansas City, try to pull those stunts again, forcing our bus drivers to have to drive around like that. Chris used to be a bus driver way back in the day. He doesn't appreciate it either.
Bluebird, the old Bluebird bus.
Trust me. They will prove their point in this matchup.
Look at Andy Reid. Boy, he's already proven his point coming off a bye. 18-3 off a bye week. How do you explain that, Pete?
Well, in Brady's scenario, by the way, because he's a great coach. He's one of the most before he went in the Super Bowl last year, he was one of the most underappreciated coaches in the league, and now he's getting his due for being a great coach. That's what great coaches do. Brady's point about they're going to run it up at the end of the game or take it. Okay, say there's a minute left. Instead of taking a knee, Brady, they're going to run the ball and score a touchdown. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that they might play this thing out depending on where the ball is. Maybe they kick the field goal to hit this. I'm telling you, Pete, just watch what happens. Trust me, from being in part of those game plan meetings, what's said and how things work out. Trust me, there are egos on the line. There are some hurt feelings. There's an upset bus driver. They will cover this number.
Well, they should have beat him the first time. They didn't beat him the first time.
Oh, they'll prove their point this time, Pete.
I'll take the 6. I'll take the 6.
That was the biggest upset of the season to this point. Raiders were 10.5-point underdogs at Arrowhead Stadium. They've beaten some really good teams so far this season, but as of right now, they're still kind of shaky with a bunch of teams sitting there at 6-3 in the wild card race in the AFC. Moving to Monday Night Football. The Rams and the Bucks. This is Tom Brady going up against Sean McVay. Pete, they matched up in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Wasn't much offense in that game. Of course, Tom Brady now with the Bucks.
Yeah, and the schedule maker has just been brutal to the Rams. I think this is their 4th trip to the East Coast. And the last time they came east to Florida, they were terrible against Miami, and Miami blew them out of that game. This time, I think it's going to be closer. I think, remember, the last time we saw Tom Brady in prime time, he was getting beat up and hit.
He probably remembers that, too.
And he pouted. Remember, with 3-and-out first series, he started pouting. I think the Rams defense can get after him and hit him and get him pouting again. I do think the Bucks defense will play better in this spot, but this is going to be a close game. And if you're giving me points, 3.5, I'll take the Rams. Maybe it's a field goal game, maybe it's a 2-point game, but I'm going to take the Rams plus the 3.5. I think Tampa Bay wins the game, but it's really close.
I'm with Pete on this one. I think Tampa Bay is going to win it. I do think the Rams will be able to keep it close, in part because of their defense. When you look at Aaron Donald, he's just so tough to stop. And we've already seen this offensive line for Tampa in spots really struggle trying to stop some of the better defensive linemen or fronts that they've gone up against. And the other thing is Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he is an absolute lockdown, shutdown corner. And so situationally, you better believe Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator, is going to match him up versus Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, whatever he feels like is best to be able to limit Tom Brady's comfort and confidence in being able to convert on 3rd down. So this game will be close, but we just showed it on our stat a minute ago. I think Jared Goff is going to struggle versus the pressure that Todd Bowles, this Tampa Bay Bucks defense, is going to bring. So even though, again, I like the points, or taking the points, the 3.5, 4, it's bounced back and forth between the two, I still think Tampa Bay wins because of that defense ultimately winning them this game.
Despite being an underdog in this game, the Rams are the sportsline favorite to end up winning that division in the NFC West. A 44% chance to win it. Seahawks 31%, Cardinals 25%. Of course, Seahawks and Cardinals playing each other this week on Thursday Night Football. Recapping the picks and more agreement.
No, that's not right. Kansas City.
Yeah.
That's true. We'll switch it for you. Let's pretend like the graphic's right and that I didn't say that. There was agreement on Rams and Tampa Bay, not on Vegas and Kansas City. Brady Quinn says look out for the backdoor cover from Kansas City because they aren't happy about the old bus incident at Arrowhead. All right. Looking forward to a Week 11 in the National Football League, and then it's Thanksgiving.
What was that song? The bus go round and round, round.
He sings it to his kids.
I'm gonna be singing it
What
to
is
Pete
that?
on
I don't
Sunday.
even know. I don't have any kids. What is
The
it?
wheels on the bus go round and round.
And they're going to go round and round the stadium.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, Brady Quinn, Pete Prisco, thank you so much. It's always fun on Wednesdays. We pick every game against the spread. I'm Chris Hassel. Thanks for watching.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.